The Boston Celtics are the team to beat in the NBA, tied for the best record throughout the whole league and the number one record in the Eastern Conference. In this episode of Celtics Digest, I'm going to explore why I think the Boston Celtics are the favorites to win the NBA championship and everything that they've done so far to get to this moment. Also, we'll be looking at one change from Zach Lowe that I think could ultimately enhance the Boston Celtics to even be a better team than they already are. All that and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz. But before we get into any Boston Celtics content, I would like to say shout out to you guys. Thank you guys so much. We recently just hit 2,400 subscribers. Woohoo! Thank you guys so much for hitting that subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it. But if you guys want to make sure you stay up to date on everything Boston Celtics daily, we're the only Boston Celtics channel that I see uploading Celtics content daily for you guys. If you guys want to make sure you stay up to date on everything Boston Celtics, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join the family. Would greatly appreciate it. But let's get into the news at hand. Make sure to grab a snack and get ready to go, as this is a jam-packed episode diving into why I think the Boston Celtics are the best team in the NBA. So, question starts off with, are the Celtics the NBA's best team? I personally think they are. They've been playing great so far this regular season, and they just look like they're going to be dominating for the rest of the year. Let's look at some stats here. As you guys can see, this is the Eastern Conference. The Boston Celtics are 14-4 atop of the Eastern Conference, 8-0 at home. They have not lost a game in the TD Garden. That is a fantastic stat to look at. 7-1 in the division. The only loss coming to the Philadelphia 76ers in a game that they should have won but just did not attack the paint. 13-3 in the total conference, putting up 116 points per game on total, with opponents putting up only usually 106, with a plus 9.6 point differential with a win streak of 2. And in the last 10, coming out here being 8-2. The only two losses coming to the Orlando Magic and the Charlotte Hornets. Two disappointing losses that the Celtics shouldn't have come to fruition, but ultimately the team can have some bad games. Now, if we want to look at them compared to the whole NBA, like I said, they are tied with the Minnesota Timberwolves at the top of the NBA. And then if we look at some advanced stats, in 3-point games, the Boston Celtics are 3-2, not the greatest. But in 10-point games, they are 9-1. Versus 500 and above teams, they are 9-3. Versus below 500, they are 5-1. Overtime, not getting the best of us, though. We have lost both games that we have gone to overtime. The game versus the Minnesota Timberwolves and the game versus the Charlotte Hornets. Unfortunately for the Boston Celtics, they are doing a great stat, beating above 500 teams at 9-3, and that shows that the Celtics can come out and win impactful games versus winning franchises, which is the impactful thing to see, because if the Celtics want to continue to be great in this playoff run and to be successful in the playoffs, they need to beat the great teams. They can't just beat up on the bad teams and luckily get thrown in the playoffs and have to chase some wins to beat some of these great teams in the Eastern Conference. They're going to be dominant against the great teams, and they're going to be dominant against the bad teams to show that they have complete dominance over the NBA. We're going to keep looking at some more stats, though. We want to look at points per game throughout the whole league. The Boston Celtics ranked 9th with 116 points per game. So they are a top 10 offense in the league. They are contributing on the point side of the ball. They are being effective scorers. They're not lights out shooters every single night, and they're not just chasing high number of points, shooting threes to outscore teams like some of these teams on this list are. They have to play great defense as well. But if we want to look at that stat, we can look at the opponent's points per game. They are top 3, right behind the Minnesota Timberwolves and New York Knicks, two great defensive teams alongside the Boston Celtics. But the Boston Celtics are only allowing 106 points per game from their opponents, which is great, showing that they have a top defense and a top offense in this NBA. I know that the offensive numbers have dwindled down a little bit in the recent games. We've been seeing some tweets talking about how the Celtics were really hot on offense in the first couple games, and in games when they lost versus the Magic, and then when they lost versus the Charlotte Hornets, their numbers went down a little bit on their offensive side. But honestly, I think they'll bounce back from that, and I still think they'll be a top 5 offense with being a top 3 defense in this NBA this season. But the main one that I want to look at is this stat right here, the point differential. As you can see, the Boston Celtics are leading the league in point differential at a 9.6, which is great for the Boston Celtics compared to the Thunder and 76ers, who are almost a point behind. The Thunder are a full point behind almost the Boston Celtics, and then the 76ers are a full point behind the Thunder. So the Celtics are almost 2 points ahead of third place in point differential, which means the Boston Celtics are outscoring their opponents so greatly and so terrific that they're holding off that great point differential, and shows that they are a contending team fighting in this whole entire league, and they're a dominant force on both sides of the ball. They can stop your best player, they can stop your best scorer, but they can also go out there and put 30 on your head with Jayson, Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps, Porzingis, whoever they want to throw at you with an offensive juggernaut. The Celtics also have had to deal with some injuries recently so far. We've seen guys like Jaylen Brown sit out in key games, with him and Kristaps Porzingis sitting out in a key game versus the 76ers, which the Celtics won and took control of the Eastern Conference and haven't lost that yet since they won that game. We could also talk about how Jrue Holiday sat out some impactful games, and Kristaps Porzingis, now with his recent injury, has been out a couple games. But even guys like Derrick White had some personal issues with the newborn child, where we obviously respected him sitting out, but the Celtics had to play through those games without Derrick White, and they won those impactful games with no Derrick White. So that goes to show you that even when injuries come and they hurt this team can overcome them with their superstars, and they can all play up to their level to beat these teams. Guys like Jrue Holiday, guys like Jaylen Brown, guys like Derrick White, Sam Hauser have stepped up, even Al Horford have stepped up tremendously for this Boston Celtics team when they're needed most and when their numbers called on them. With Kristaps Porzingis having this elongated injury with his foot now possibly sitting out this whole week, we've seen Al Horford step up hugely for the Boston Celtics on offensive and defensive side, where when he was playing off the bench, he wasn't playing with his most impactful piece, which is great to see that he still has that life and he still has that juice in him. But the one thing that I do want to break down and talk about is what Zach Lowe mentioned. And Zach Lowe talked about how the Boston Celtics need to work on one key change to help them be a better team, and I totally agree with him on this key change. He says that the Celtics need to love the rim. This may be the most important niche number of the season, 30.4%. That is the share of Boston shots that have come within the restricted area, 8th lowest in the league per cleaning the glass. It is identical to their number last season. Boston also ranks low, below average, 19th in free throw rate. They were 28th last season. There's nothing wrong with being a jump shooting team when you take and make the right jump shots. Boston leads the league in three-point attempts and takes the second fewest mid-ranges. That's healthy. Though Boston's three tilt more above the break, all 8 of Boston's core rotation players are above average three-point shooters. No team has better spacing. The middle of the floor is wide open. One intended playoff of all of the open territory is the ability to attack it without any defense in your way. The Celtics are at their best when they remember the rim and the foul line are still the most reliable sources of offense, immune from the cruel vicissitudes of shooting luck. They become vulnerable when they forget that, when they fall in love with the hero ball jumpers. There is no need for major recalibration. Boston should rank in top 3 in threes, but on some nights against elite defenses or when the 3 goes cold, exchanging 4 or 5 jumpers for assault on the basket can be the difference between winning and losing. Driving to and kicking out should not be the default option every time one of Boston's perimeter players hits the paint. If a corridor is there, seize it. Even if it's narrow, it's okay to get a little grimy to seek contact. And I totally agree here with Zach Lowe. We've seen Jaylen Brown be an impactful rim attacker this season for the Boston Celtics. Derrick White has had his floater game attacking the rim. Jayson Tatum, putting on that extra little muscle over here, has been attacking the rim better this season. But we still have yet to see this great impactful rim attacking and rim protecting from this team so far on offense. And that is something that is desperately needed. He also mentions the free throws, and that is something that is necessarily needed to be worked on. The Celtics work on the free throws and work on their attacking the rim. I think that some of these leads that some of these teams can bring back would be instantly stopped because the Celtics, like Zach Lowe said, if we want to look back, they do get cold from 3 sometimes. They go on nights where if they're not hitting their threes in a certain span, they'll keep jousting them. We even saw in Game 7 of the NBA Finals last season, worse than I hate when the Celtics were down like 12, 15 points, they were continuing to fire threes even if they weren't making it. And if they hit 2, 3 in a row, they'd continue to jack them up even if the Heat then went on another run because that was the only way they thought that they could feasibly come back. In reality, if they got 3 or 4 defensive stops and attacked the rim and got some and ones, they might have had a better opportunity coming back into the game. If we want to look at the stats right here, we can look. This is a little bit confusing. As you can see, it's all the players with their stats, but the 2 stats that I want you guys to look at right here are the 3-point attempts, which is the 5th row, and I want you to look at the 2-point attempts. As you can see, Jayson Tatum attempts around 11 2-pointers per game and averages around 9 3-pointers per game. Jaylen Brown attempts around 11 2-pointers per game, but he averages around 8 threes per game, 7. Porzingis, 7 2-pointers to his 5 threes. But if you want to look, Derrick White, 5.5 threes to his 4.1 two-pointers. Jrue Holiday is going to be another exception too. He's going to be shooting at the rim more effectively for the Boston Celtics, 6.5 to his 4.6. But Sam Hauser, 6.4 threes compared to his 0.8 two-pointers. Al Horford, 3.8 threes compared to his 2.1 two-pointers. Payton Pritchard, his 3.7 3-points attempted to his 2.3 point attempts from the mid-range. As you guys can see, the Boston Celtics have guys that are specifically trained to shoot the three for them and be lethal three-point shooters. Guys like Al Horford has banged on that three and just been a stretch four for the Boston Celtics on offense. Sam Hauser, the best three-point shooter on the Boston Celtics team, is just known for shooting threes. Payton Pritchard, a great shot creator, is known for just chucking threes. Guys like even Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown shooting 11 threes, 9 threes per game is a lot of, or 9 threes and 8 threes per game is a lot of threes. Even though they're shooting more jumpers, they're shooting, 11 or 10 at the rim. That's because a lot of those are just attacks at the rim just because they have to. These guys are necessarily living and dying by the three. And I know Mazzulla ball has been live or die by the three, but it is definitely something that they need to work on and change, because if a team is able to find that out in the playoffs and stop them, or in the playoffs if they are to have 2 or 3 games where they just can't hit shots from three, this team is going to look scared and confused when they can't attack the rim. And they need guys that can be able to do that. Like Jaylen Brown has been an effective force at attacking the rim for the Boston Celtics, and I have yet to see another guy be that effective as him. Maybe if Jrue Holiday can get his offense up a little bit more, or if Jrue Holiday needs to be a more impactful piece for a game on offense with some injuries, maybe he can start attacking the rim, and guys like Derrick White can also start doing that as well. But that is the one change I do believe that the Boston Celtics need to make. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you guys believe that the Boston Celtics are NBA championship caliber team? I personally think that they have the best odds of winning the championship, and so does Bleacher Report as well, if we want to look at that. Bleacher Report mentioned that they said here that the Boston Celtics are the #1 team, and if any NBA team is going to look to take them out, it is going to have to be a tough one. They said that they are one of the 8 teams that they feel are in the race for the championship, and they think they are leading the race, as they had them #1 in the rankings this week and #1 in the rankings last week. So I'm not the only one that agrees. Everyone, it looks like the Boston Celtics seem to be a powerhouse and a favorite to win the championship. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you guys believe that the Celtics are a championship-ready team? Or if they're not a championship-ready team, what are some things that they need to adjust to work on to become that championship-ready team? I'm Bruce Velez. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Celtics Digest, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.